Greetings and welcome to the Prime Directive. I'm your host Jeffico, and today we're going to cover the Captain's Women. In Season 2, Episode 11, we meet Janet Wallace, a love interest of Captain James T. Kirk. I haven't begun to count how many Kirk has, but this is a really good episode, so I figure it's a good place to start. So we'll cover the episode, what's good about it, and break down the relationship. So let's review Star Trek: The Deadly Years. We start out beaming down to Gamma Hydrant 4 with an away team, most notably Spock, Checkov, Kirk, Bones, Scotty, and Lieutenant Galway. A routine checkup on a colony with only 6 people. Checkov wanders off on his own and finds a dead body of an old man and gets really scared.
Come in, sir! In there! A dead man!
Bones later tells us that he died of natural causes. Then Robert Johnson and his wife Elaine wander in, looking like they're 70, but they're actually in their late 20s. Which is odd because Kirk spoke to Robert just a week ago, and he wasn't that old. Back on the ship and in a briefing with Commodore Stalker, and personally, I'm not a fan of the guy. Also, Janet Wallace is there, a Federation scientist and biophysicist. I guess she's heading to Starbase 10 with the Commodore. Not having much to report on the cause of this aging, the briefing is cut short, and everybody exits except for Wallace and Kirk. A little playful chatter, and Kirk says,
"Things wouldn't change if it started all over again, would it? You have your job, I have my ship, and neither one of us will change."
We learn that she was widowed to a man that she admired. We get Kirk repeating himself a few times, and then Lieutenant Arlene Galway goes to sickbank complaining about her hearing and looking a bit worn down. Then Kirk goes to his quarters, takes off his shirt, and decides this is a good time to call Spock. He repeats himself a few more times, but what I really want to know is what's going on here. We see Spock's image looking like he's looking at Jim, but Jim acting like he's only on audio. Is Spock being forced to stare at his waist and chest? And if so, how often does Kirk call people like that? Does the communication system work differently than I'm thinking? Or does Kirk just unaware of how it works and the crew's too kind to tell him? Robert Johnson and his wife die of old age. Jim sees Bones about muscle strains, and it's revealed that he has advanced arthritis. And Scotty comes in looking old as hell itself.
This advanced arthritis is spreading. It's impossible. I can run it through again, but I'll come up with the same thing. Scotty.
Checkov is the only one not experiencing symptoms or notable changes from the away mission, and it's clearly not a contagious thing because no one on the ship has it. However, Arlene has aged rather rapidly too, and she's 10 years younger than Kirk, but as Bones says, everybody ages differently. Wallace waits for Kirk in the corridor and makes her intentions clear. She's not over him. Kirk asks how much older her late husband was, and she gets defensive, telling us he's 26 years older. Her interest wasn't piqued until Kirk started getting older, and then Kirk burns her good.
Rapidly growing older.
Jim, please.
What are you offering me, Janet? Love? Or a going away present?
Kirk gets to the bridge with the creepy Commodore watching him closely, and Spock tells him the cause of the rapid aging, a comet that flew past the planet's orbit, emitting a not so easily detectable radiation. So Kirk tells her to update Starfleet and use Code 2. She reminds him that the Romulans had cracked Code 2, so he says use Code 3 then. I've come to appreciate the Spock and McCoy exchanges. They come off as insulting, but really they're just part of their growing friendship, and this one is great.
I wondered if perhaps there was something which could lower my sensitivity to cold.
I'm not a magician, Spock. Just an old country doctor.
As I always suspected.
We find out Galway's metabolism actually aged her faster, so even though she was younger, she dies first. That sucks. I mean, she wore a blue uniform. How were we even supposed to see that coming? Commodore Stalker calls a competency hearing because he thinks Kirk can't run the ship competently anymore. He's not wrong, but if there's a slow part to this episode, this is it, though it's kind of funny to watch them act old. They all get called upon to state, for the record, Kirk's lapses in judgment, so Kirk gets relieved of duty and the Commodore takes command of the ship. 1, he's never commanded a ship before. 2, he sets a direct course through the neutral zone to Starbase 10. Is he an idiot? Even Sulu has demonstrated more knowledge than him. He should be next in command, even though he might not have the seniority yet. If this was the JJ universe, it wouldn't matter, but somebody has to be in command after Scotty. There has to be a 3rd or 4th. After a quick Spock visit to Kirk's quarters with Wallace, and Spock updating Kirk on Stalker commanding the ship, Kirk gets upset. But they all end up in sickbay together and figure out the solution. Chekhov's test results have been coming back negative because there's really no cause for him to be immune. However, down on the planet, he was the first to discover the body and he was scared to death. His adrenaline was high.
Doctor, ironolin is the specific accepted for all radiation sickness.
Yes. Now, for that adrenaline.
They work on a cure as Stalker shows how unqualified he is for any position. He wants to talk to the Romulans. What an idiot. Even Sulu points it out. Wallace and Bones finish the cure that could work or it could kill. Jim says he has to take it first because he's his ship to save. After some body spasms, Wallace says,
His bodily functions are getting stronger.
Commodore Stalker wanting to surrender just as Kirk gets to the bridge to take over to take command and orders Uhura to broadcast on Code 2 to Starfleet Command that they have no choice but to self-destruct using the Corbinite device.
Since this will result in the destruction of the Enterprise and all matter within a 200,000 kilometer diameter and establish a corresponding dead zone, all Federation ships will avoid this area for the next 4 solar years.
This is great storytelling because the first time Kirk forgot because of the old age joke of, memory slipping that Code 2 was cracked by the Romulans, and now he knows, but he's still using it. The episode ends with Janet on the bridge and an old age joke.
Well, gentlemen, all in all, an experience we'll remember in our old age. Which won't be for some while, I hope. Take over, Mr. Sulu. Steady as she goes.
This episode is good for a lot of reasons because you got multiple storylines going on, with the illness of trying to find a cure for it, the Romulans being so close to the neutral zone, Commodore dipshit, and the Janice-Wallace relationship. Not to mention the friendly told tale of getting older and fighting becoming irrelevant. Janet and Kirk had a brief romance back in 2261 to the point where they were actually engaged. She went by Janet LaBelle back then, and at the Moonbeam Club, they had mutually decided to split and go their separate ways for their careers. I never really noticed that importance in this episode of the relationship, but then she did actually go off to get remarried, and Kirk falls in love with somebody every week, really. In the early drafts of Wrath of Khan, Janet Wallace was actually in charge of the Omega system, a weapon of mass destruction. It would later become the Genesis device and she would be replaced by Carol Marcus, which was a good choice. There are some similarities to this episode compared to the TNG Will Always Have Paris episode with Picard's love interest, and that actually happens a few times, so I wouldn't mind covering some of those while we wait for Star Trek Discovery and the Orville. And as always, if you have any thoughts on this episode, do comment below because we love talking about Trek. And thanks for watching.